this will be a quick MMA vid. Probably most of you will probably not see this, but we will see as by the time I get this done and up, most of you will probably be waiting for the TNA pay-per-view video, which will be up sometime after this. I would say within the next 12 hours after this, probably. After I do this, probably not 12 hours, but it'll probably be, it might be about the same time. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. But anyways, this is more of an MMA vid. Well, not more of it, is an MMA vid. I'm going to talk a little bit about UFC Fight Night 17 and then some of the other major happenings and the world of MMA as we go around. But I'm going to give some quick thoughts on Fight Night 17. I'm not, this was a good night of fights with a lackluster card. I know some people probably don't like me saying that, but it was a lackluster card. I think the WC events are far better than this, just because of there's at least you get title matches, and you usually do get some fairly somewhat bigger names, not a whole lot bigger, but you do get some title fights, which isn't so much these guys' fault as it is UFC for probably putting on too many cards. But anyways, that's a very, very small nitpicky thing. And I'm sure once, because, the versus WC deal, I'm sure is a good deal, but I wouldn't be surprised if once that deal is up, UFC just completely absorbs WEC, and we have a lot more title fights, and those title fights are stuff like this, stuff like the next UFC will probably, which will be aired on Spike as well, will probably be a little bit better, because we'll probably get more title fights. We'll probably have, which I think more people would like to see, and I think stuff like this needs that sort of thing. So that's just kind of my input on that. But anyways, just some quick thoughts on the fights. Anthony Johnson versus Fioravanti. This was pretty much what I think you would expect. Johnson pretty much in control for most of the fight. Low kicks, lots of good punches, good striking. Won on strikes, because I think this is what everyone pretty much admitted. I think Johnson wanted a little bit more of a highlight reel type fight, but that's not what he got, so he was kind of upset about that. But hey, you can't always get what you want, so there you go with there. Then we had Danzig versus Josh Neer. This was, I would say, probably the most competitive fight. I wouldn't call it the best fight of the night. I would say this was probably the most competitive fight. Pretty good stuff, with ending in Neer doing an amazing, I shouldn't say amazing, but a really nice triangle choke, particularly when he looked like he was in trouble. This was a very good back and forth fight. Very good, very competitive. I think that's the type of fight that you want to see on here. Though I will say, I don't think any of these fights are anything that's going to bring in any casual fans or any new fans, as there aren't, like I said, there weren't enough named people, except for Cain Velasquez versus Denis Stojnic. This was your heavyweight bout, and from me, just watching it and being someone that has watched boxing for so long, this looked like they brought in Stojnic to basically just be a punching bag for Velasquez. And the problem is Stojnic has a chin and could take lots of punishment. So it wasn't the highlight type of fight that I think they were looking for, as much as it was just Cain just basically just overpowering. It wasn't kind of the type of showmanship type finish that I think UFC was looking for, Velasquez was looking for. But it was an okay fight, and Stojnic took a lot of punishment, and if you like that sort of thing, you probably enjoyed it quite a bit. Then we got Joe Lauzon. See, I read the freaking name. I shouldn't have read the name. Lauzon versus Jeremy Stephens. This was, I would say, in my opinion, the best fight, because it was very back and forth, even though Lauzon pretty much controlled most of the fight. Because Stephens, for whatever reason, I have no idea, I was screaming at the TV, maybe I'm the only one that thought this, he kept going to the ground with him, even though he was getting his ass handed to him. Well, his ass handed to him, but he was getting dominated on the ground. Eventually, he should have just stood up and said, "No, we're going to stand up and we're going to fight up here where, you know, I could clock you a bit." But that's not how it happened, and eventually Lauzon pretty much caught him and got a crazy armbar, which Steve just tried to roll through, and then he just continually, it didn't work as Lauzon just rolled through with him. Pretty good highlight reel type thing. Very, very nice, and was very cool. And all the fights were fairly entertaining, I will say that. There's just, like I said, there just wasn't, you know, it was just kind of there. And I think this, diehards probably love this, but I can't see any, you know, more casual fans, which, to me, that's why you do televised events. Free televised events is try to get more casual fans and try to get people to buy the pay-per-views who didn't buy the pay-per-views. Though there aren't many people probably not buying the pay-per-views, but still, that's what they're for. If you're using a pro wrestling model, that is their business model. That is the business model, to try to get the people who are to watch the TV to order the pay-per-views. And I think UFC sometimes does it backwards, where it's, you know, trying to get the people who order the pay-per-views to buy the TV shows. So, which I think is a huge problem. I don't see this show, you know, I'm not a big, you know, someone who can guess ratings. Maybe this thing did a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if it did just like a 1.5 rating, which is almost impossible to find out, because when the UFC releases the numbers, which all of the MMA news sites use, they just quote how many millions watched it. And I think they purposely do that, because if you look at the actual rating number, it's not very impressive. And I think they purposely do that for that, so it looks like, ooh, look, however million people watched the show. Well, that's great and wonderful, but it only got this rating, which isn't great and wonderful. And I think that, you know, I've said this before, I think TV is where UFC really kind of lacks. And I think they could do a better job on the free events, and they're probably going to have to. But I will get to that in a second. Of course, the big news that everyone was talking about, I was asked at least twice this week to talk about this, which was Vaseline Gate with BJ Penn and GSP. I really don't have too many comments on it. You know, they're going to do what they're going to do, but if they do a rematch in July, UFC, please do something with the lightweight division and with that freaking belt. Because now, if you do this match, what's it going to be? Is it going to be another, you know, December, or, you know, maybe even January before we even get, you know, a title defense by BJ? Come on, this is getting ridiculous. Please, for all the people that cried and moaned and bitched and said that, you know, ooh, the sport has no credibility because Brock Lesnar won, and yes, people said that shit. What about this? When guys aren't defending titles, that hurts the credibility of the sport, because guys need to defend their titles on a consistent basis. Thank you. Please, can we please get this figured out? That's all I'm asking. If they do a rematch, I wouldn't be surprised if it's at UFC 100. And I wouldn't be surprised, I will say this right now, if that happens, I also wouldn't be surprised if that is the single most stacked card UFC has ever done, and would probably be even more stacked than you know, the December show, the Ultimate. And I wouldn't be surprised if it looked very much like even one of the, because I could really foresee them putting on top tier matches where it looked a lot like a I was going to say Strikeforce, but not a Strikeforce, a Shockwave event from Pride, the very good Shockwave events from Pride. I really, really, really could see that. And so there is that. So that is what I have to say on all of that. And of course, the bigger news, at least in my mind, is that Elite XC has finally sold off the, Elite XC has finally apparently been sold, or at least the assets that were being sold have been sold. They were bought by Shockwave. Listen to me. Shockwave. By Strikeforce, which most people are pretty happy about because Strikeforce has been around for a while, and they do actually know how to promote, unlike Affliction, that's their big problem, is they do some stupid decisions promoting wise. But Strikeforce has been around for a long time as far as promoting, and it looks like they bought, I believe, 42 of the fighter contracts, and apparently the TV deal that was Showtime and CBS apparently was reworked so that it's actually a better deal. Looks like it's going to be up to 16 events, I believe is what I read and heard, for Strikeforce, and apparently they're going to keep their NBC show as well as it sticks right now. So, very interesting things. Strikeforce apparently is very interested in doing a legit women's division, which would be good. And the fact that Strikeforce does have ties back to K1 means that maybe they can bring over some of the better lightweights from Japan, as I said that I thought Affliction should do, because that is the one division where you have enough top tier talent that's not in UFC to bring those guys in. So that would be good. And of course everybody has pretty much been kind of whispering and hoping, I shouldn't say whispering, but pretty much saying they hope that Affliction and Strikeforce kind of work together with the heavyweights. So this could be really good, and this could be very good for MMA, particularly if they can put on a very, very, very good show, particularly on the CBS shows, and see if they can pretty much garner a lot of the same interest that Elite XC did at the beginning, but weren't able to keep it because, in my opinion, because of bad decisions. That second show probably never should have existed, and they should have gone right to the third show. But anyways, they probably one of the big surprises that probably a lot of people would be kind of interested in, and I'm sure a lot of diehards kind of rolled their eyes around, but I think a lot of these people just don't understand how promoting works, is that apparently they either want to bring in Kimbo or they are going to bring in Kimbo. I would decide that's probably one of the guys that they tried to pick up was Kimbo. And that's good, because while I don't think Kimbo being marketed as the face of Strikeforce would work. I definitely think that he's still a name. I think he's still someone I think people would be interested in, and I think he'd still be a draw. And listening to their promoter on Sheerdog, I think it was last night I was listening to it, he really understood the fact that you bring, Kimbo along slowly, you let him, show what he can do, and he can be good, and he can be a draw, because he is a draw, so that would be good. And like I said, they do have ties back to K1, which is good, meaning that we might be able to see some of the guys from Dream and K1 be brought over, which would be excellent as well. And maybe a true, very, very true somebody who can really, maybe if they team up with Affliction on some stuff, really give UFC a run for their money, which I think would be good for the fighters. I think it'd be good for the fans, because I think we get better cards, particularly from UFC, where I think UFC sometimes just throws cards out there knowing people will buy them, which isn't always the best thing in the world. So hopefully that all is well and wonderful. I believe April will be the first show, which will be headlined by Frank Shamrock. I'm not sure if they've announced who he is going to fight yet, but that will be on Showtime. So that should be groovy and excellent and wonderful for MMA, particularly when they do the first CBS show, because I think that is a wonderful thing and will help grow MMA. And hopefully, it can go from there. Like I said, I was hoping Affliction would do it, but they didn't, and I think, it is what it is. Kind of shaking my head at Affliction at times. They do some stupid things. You would think this would be something that they would go after, but like I said, them and Strikeforce could still work together. There is that hope, but I do think Strikeforce can go out there and do some interesting things. It'll be interesting to see the CBS show, because I would like to see if they add a little bit more pizzazz and showmanship to that show more than probably the Showtime show. So there it is. Fight Night 17 in the books was fairly, like I said, it was a good. Good night of fights, kind of lackluster in my opinion though, but it was a good night of fights, and I guess that's really all you can ask for. Velasquez probably wasn't the dominating performance UFC was hoping for, but he still looked good. I mean, he still looked really excellent. So there was that. So that was good. You know, a lot of people were saying that Velasquez could be in line come January for a title shot. I don't know about that. I would say this: if they do want to push him up, I think him versus Chuck Congo would not be a bad fight. I don't know if they'd want to do that because you might want to build both of those guys up a little bit more to make the heavyweight division look a little bit more deeper than it really is. But it is what it is. But anyways, that is that, and I am out. For those of you that care, I will be back later tonight. This will probably be uploaded about 5 o'clock in the morning, and then, of course, the TNA review will be up probably sometime within the next, we'll say 20 hours. How's that? We'll see how close I get to that. But anyways, with that, I am out. Have a good one. Later.